Welcome to The Explainer. What if ET contact isn't really about spaceships at all? What if it's about spirituality? Today, we're digging into the story of Mission Rama, a group with some wild claims. We're talking tens of thousands of cosmic encounters. And the craziest part? It all apparently started with just a pen and a piece of paper. Okay, let's start with a number. 25,000. Just let that sink in for a second. By 1993, one single group was claiming they had set up over 25,000 individual encounters between humans and, well, non-human intelligence. It's a mind-boggling figure, for sure, but the story of how they got there, that's where things get really fascinating. And you know, this whole story breaks into the mainstream in a pretty unexpected place. Not some remote desert, but a public health conference, of all things. That's where a physician, Dr. Joseph Burkes, first hears this unbelievable claim. And for him, it was the start of a mystery that would pull him in for decades. So who was this group, and how on earth does a story like this even get started? To figure that out, we've got to go back, way back, to the very beginning. All right, our story starts in Lima, Peru. The year is 1974, and we're zeroing in on a young university student named Sixto Paz Wells. He has no idea, but he's about to get a message that will change, well, pretty much everything. So Sixto's dad was really into metaphysics, and Sixto himself had just been to this conference all about telepathic communication. Feeling inspired, he decides to give it a shot. He sits down, meditates, and basically tries to turn himself into a human antenna, just to see if, anyone was out there and listening. And something happened. A message actually came through. The sender said their name was Oxalk, and they weren't exactly local. They claimed to be an extraterrestrial, communicating from a base called Morlin, located on Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. I mean, wow. Now, as you can imagine, Sixto was a little skeptical. His friends, even more so. So they decided to test this Oxalic. They started throwing questions at him, some out loud, some just in their heads. And according to the story, every single question got a perfect answer. They even asked about the exact page number a friend, a total skeptic, was reading in a book at that very moment, and Oxalic nailed it. Okay, so telepathic party tricks are one thing, but it wasn't enough. The group wanted more. They wanted real, physical proof. So they put in a request, and that's what led them out of the city lights and deep into the vast Chilca Desert for let's call it a pre-arranged meeting. They were given a time and a place, 9 p.m., February 7th, and right on cue, something appeared. A silvery, disc-shaped object just materialized in the night sky and started heading right for them. Witnesses said it looked kind of like a hamburger, a silent, metallic craft with 6 windows you could actually see. And it just hovered right there, 80 feet above their heads for a full 15 minutes. But you know what happened? Pure panic. Instead of awe, they just freaked out. They were not ready for this. Not at all. So they try again a week later, and this time it was a total disaster. Sixto's dad, going completely against the plan, invites a bunch of his friends, and what was supposed to be a serious, focused event turns into a party. And sure enough, 2 small UFOs show up, and chaos erupts all over again. For Sixto, it was just humiliating. But these failures were actually really, really important. They were learning experiences. The group finally realized the problem wasn't them, it was us. It was their own human reactions, their panic. If they were going to continue this, they needed to get serious. We're talking real mental, emotional, and spiritual discipline. So they got to work. After weeks of intense meditation, they even adopted a strict vegetarian diet. The core group of 7 went back to the Chilca Desert that July, and this time they felt they were truly prepared for whatever was next. And on this trip, something different happened. Sixto wanders off from the group, gets a little lost in the dark, and then he sees it, a strange light in the distance. He walks towards it, and what he finds is something the ET supposedly called a Xendra, basically an interdimensional portal. A figure actually steps out of this light, and Sixto hears this one simple command in his mind. Come. He has to fight down his fear, but he does it. He steps into the light, and he said it was just this intense wave of vertigo and nausea as he was completely engulfed in brilliance. And when the light faded, he wasn't in the desert anymore, not even close. He was standing in a city made of transparent domes and glowing buildings. The story goes he had been transported to that base on the moon Ganymede. He says he was given a full tour of this utopian city. It was a colony, home to almost 1 million beings who originally came from the Orion constellation. They had a governing council, but get this, no money. People only worked 4 hours a day. The rest of the time, it was all about spiritual growth. Now, for Sixto, this whole experience felt like it went on for hours and hours. But when he stepped back through that portal and found his friends in the desert, they looked at their watches. They were adamant. He'd only been gone for 15 minutes. So this trip through the Xendras, or whatever it was, this was a real game changer. It wasn't just some bizarre joyride. This was the moment things got official. It was the beginning of a mission. But a mission for what? What was the point of all this? Well, the group was instructed to call themselves Rahma, which apparently means sun on earth. And their job, their mission, was to act as teachers, to use these contact experiences to help get humanity ready for a huge spiritual shift, and maybe, just maybe, help us evolve past our own worst, self-destructive habits. And this is where we loop back to Dr. Burkes, the physician from the beginning of our story. After studying this group for decades, he came to a really interesting conclusion. He believed the point of all this wasn't about spaceships or alien tech. The real message was about us, about unlocking our own human potential. He argued that this expansion of consciousness is the one thing we desperately need to solve the huge problems we're facing as a species, environmental collapse, endless conflict, all of it. The idea is that the real change has to happen from the inside out. And that's really the idea I want to leave you with. Whether you believe a single word of this story or not, what if the point of all these UFO stories, all these claims, isn't about them out there? What if the real message is about the incredible, untapped potential waiting to be unlocked right here inside of us?